Press this button here. There we go. Marshall Chriswell joins us, another installment of Marshall Law. This program intended for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law is constantly changing, and the information may not be complete or correct depending on the date and your particular legal problem, especially since this is the start of a new year. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. Because of that, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. A guy, for instance, like Marshall Chriswell, who joins us this morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
It's good to have you with us here today. Yeah, it's true, though, isn't it? Each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and every year little subtle changes happen in the laws, and we need to pay attention to them.
That's true. A lot of times when legislatures make changes, whether it's federal or state, those changes do go into effect at the beginning of the year. But the laws are constantly changing, and it's my job to keep on top of them.
Well, one of the things that we constantly keep on top of is estate planning, and as we begin a new year, it's probably a good time to begin that conversation anew, because people can use this as that time when they decide, okay, I'm finally going to, in 2023, get my estate in order and put that burden to ease that off of my mind. I think you know what I'm talking about, even if I don't. Good morning. Let's talk about that a little bit. Estate planning and people who make that resolution. I'm going to do something about my estate plan now.
Yeah, well, to people who have made that resolution this year, it's commendable, because as we've discussed in the past, there have been multiple studies done in recent years that show that less than half of all Americans, all adult Americans, have any kind of estate plan in place at all. Just most people, the majority of people, either haven't even given it a moment's thought, or have thought about it, but for some reason decided that they're not going to take care of it yet. And whether that be because they think the task is too daunting, because they think that, I don't really have anything, or, the estate planning is for rich people, which of course is a myth, or just general procrastination. It's not an easy topic to discuss. It's not an easy thing to think about. So there are lots of reasons why people don't sit down with a lawyer and create an estate plan. They think it's going to be too expensive, all kinds of things. But if you made that resolution, it's commendable, and I encourage people to follow through on it.
All right, that being the case, there's the old saying, beginning is half done. So what is our first step? If we've made that resolution, I'm going to work on my estate plan this year, what's the first thing we need to do?
The first thing you need to do is you've got to start that forward momentum. So make the appointment, right? Call an attorney. If you call my office, that's great. If you have another attorney, that's fantastic too. If you don't know somebody, you can ask friends and family who they've used, maybe get recommendations, but make that call and get the appointment scheduled, because that'll start that forward momentum.
Mm-hmm. And then I think one of the things we need to point out to folks is as big a step as that is, the second step is not as complicated as you might think. We might think we have to gather every scrap of paper that we have and every record that we can think of and drag it all in for that initial consultation. That's not the case.
No, not at all. At least not in my practice. What I do is when someone schedules an estate plan consultation, I have an intake questionnaire, which is a very simple thing to fill out. It gives me some general information about your family situation. Are you married? Are you divorced, widowed, what have you? Some information about who your children or other potential beneficiaries of your estate are. And then some general information about your assets and how you would like potentially to have them distributed when the time comes. And this is an easy form to fill out. And the first time you come in, you bring that form, and we go through it in a general way. And if I need more detailed information. Then, if I need to see statements for for retirement accounts, or if I need to see your life insurance information, or if I need to get other information, we can deal with that at that point. But you don't need to start gathering everything in advance of the first meeting, because there may be things that I just don't necessarily need, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely is, and you'll let them know what needs, and sometimes there can be surprises in there for folks. They might not really consider something to be an asset that really is an asset, and they might find out that there's something of value that they have that they never really considered to be worth anything.
Well, I'll tell you, this is, and we've talked before, Todd, about the benefit of actually sitting down with a lawyer who does estate planning on a regular basis, as opposed to trying to, heaven forbid, write your own will or go online and use some service to prepare a will. When you have the opportunity to sit down with an attorney who does this on a regular basis, we know the questions to ask. And where to dig in and get more details, and because we've seen every situation, and so we're going to, potentially uncover things. Oh, I didn't think about the fact that that I own a partial interest in my family property, or what do we need to do as far as planning for distribution whenever of my the family camp whenever I pass away, and talking about specific items. We have some sentimental personal property that was passed down through the family. Do we need to deal with that separately, and how do we do that? Different types of financial accounts that maybe you want to deal with in a particular way, rather than just having an outright distribution. So, by talking through those details, it brings to the surface different considerations that you're not going to. It's not going to happen if you're just punching in information into a form online.
You are dealing as well with folks who will bring their assumptions with them, too. For instance, a husband or a wife might consider, well, when I die, whoever's left, she or he, everything goes to them, and I don't have to worry about that anymore because, well, I won't be here anymore. It's up to them to handle that, and they're just going to get everything, and off we go, and life goes on. That's not really always the case.
One of the biggest benefits of creating an estate plan, having a will, is that you get to control who's in charge, who's going to be the executor, who's going to manage the assets and make sure that your wishes are followed, and deal with all the administrative work that has to be done. And also, how are the assets going to be distributed? Who's going to get what? If you don't do that, if you don't create a will, then you are leaving the distribution of your estate in the hands of the Pennsylvania legislature. Okay, mm-hmm. And while I'm sure they're all very fine people, I don't think you want them deciding where your stuff goes. And they can change the laws at any time. But right now, the intestacy laws, intestacy laws are the laws for people that die without a will. Okay, if you die without a will, this is what the legislature says happens. And first and foremost, and the thing that surprises people, is that if you die and you leave behind your spouse doesn't necessarily get everything. Your spouse splits the assets with your surviving children. And if those surviving children are from a previous relationship, if they're not all the biological children of you and your spouse, they split that 50-50. So, I've seen situations where a surviving spouse could potentially, or does, lose their home because it was titled to the spouse who passed away, and the kids are entitled to half of it, and there's maybe not a good relationship there. So that's one example of why you really want to take control and have these documents created rather than relying on state law to distribute your assets.
Yeah, and you've used that word experience a couple of times. You need somebody that has that experience and that knowledge as their base, as their foundation. Now, we have been talking, we're going to run out of time soon, I know. We've been talking about somebody who finally decides to take that step and get that will and get that estate plan worked out. But there are people who have had wills in place for years and maybe haven't looked at them for a while, and it's time for them to get rolling again too, isn't it?
It is. It's great. The best thing is that you take the first step, you get, and then you follow through. You get your will, your powers of attorney, healthcare documents, all the things that we need to have a good estate plan. But if situations change in your life, whether it has to do with your assets, the nature and quantity of your assets, or family relationships change, good things, you have grandchildren that are born, or you have kids get married and things like that, or more negative change. You get a divorce, you have a business that folds. All kinds of things can affect what should be in the structure of your estate plan. So I always suggest, at a minimum, once every 3 years, pull it out, take a look at it, give me a quick call, and we talk and we say, okay, do we need to make any changes? And if we do, you come in and have a meeting. Or of course, if and when things do change, you want to pull them out and schedule a meeting.
All right. So all that being the case, how do we do that? How do we schedule that meeting?
You can call my office, 724-465-5826. Stop and see us in the old RMP Coal headquarters at 655 Church Street in Indiana, or go online to www.westernpalawyer.com.
Marshall, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks a lot, Todd. Have a good day.
You too. It's the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1.